Yes, Dimitar, welcome to this our translation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us for this very short, concentrate online translation and briefing on the Turkey's presidential and parliamentary elections. So we intend to stream this translation for about 30 minutes. If you have any question, please write in the Zoom's question sections. And I'm glad to welcome my guest, an expert on Turkey's politics, Dimitar Beshev. He is a lecturer of Oxford School of Global and Area Studies, also a non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and visiting scholar at Carnegie Europe. And of course, he has published a book on Erdogan's Turkey last year. So he is one you would like to hear about Turkey's election. So welcome, Dimitar. It's really nice to see you. And my just first question for you, it seems that there is no final official results announced yet, but the main outcome is clear. No candidate secured more than 50% of votes, and Erdogan has about 49%, and Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu about 45%. So there will be a runoff, the second election round in 2 weeks on 28th of May. So how do you read those results? It is some disappointment in the opposition camp, or isn't it?
Well, definitely. Many polling agencies predicted a runoff, but they also expected that Kılıçdaroğlu would be in the leads, almost the same result in reverse. So 49% for Kılıçdaroğlu and Erdogan, a few percentage points behind him. Now, we discovered that polling agencies didn't do a good job in capturing hidden votes for Erdogan, which has to do probably with nationalist voters or conservative voters who wouldn't reveal their electoral preferences. So definitely, yeah, there is this introspection on behalf of the opposition alliance. Secondly, one thing that is not very visible in the international coverage is the parliamentary race. And the Turkish laws, parliament is elected at the same time as the president, and the governing People's Alliance has overperformed. So we expected a much greater percentage of flight from Erdogan's and party and its allies, but it seems that they have secured enough seats in the next parliament, so there won't be cohabitation. That's important because opposition was hopeful to make gains in the legislature as well.
How do you think? What was maybe the main reason why the opposition didn't succeed into such extent they hoped for? They tried to win and to secure, especially this the major candidate, especially in the first round.
There's several reasons. The first reason is there is a genuine support for Erdogan. There are people who see him as their representative and the legitimate ruler of Turkey and prepared to give him support no matter what. I mean, under any model with the tanking economy, you'd expect that there will be voters punishing Erdogan. Also, the earthquake in February, Turkey as a state didn't do a great job in responding to the natural disaster. But ideology matters, and people are genuinely supportive, or enough people are genuinely supportive of Erdogan no matter what. Second reason, it's not a level playing field. Turkish elections are free in the sense that nobody, or there's a very small number of irregularities or meddling on the day of the vote. But in the run-up to the election, obviously, the state and the media or the bulk of the media strongly favors Erdogan. There's some fascinating statistics. For example, the public broadcaster gave Kılıçdaroğlu about 40 minutes of airtime and gave Erdogan 2,000. So the disparity is very visible in a country that is very much split in the middle. And it's not just media, but also the administrative resources that Erdogan can pull, and the populist promises he made for raising salaries and also raising pensions and making all kinds of social payments or programs. And this matters in a country where so much depends on the government. And thirdly, and that's something that probably the opposition will be dealing with in the coming weeks, is the choice of candidates. So Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu had some pros as a leader of the main opposition party. He is a consensus figure, and he could broker this alliance. But he failed to appeal to a critical number of conservative voters to join the bandwagon. I mean, of course, Erdogan is losing support. He pulled off 52% in 2018. So there is some realignment on the part of AKP voter base. But Kılıçdaroğlu is also vulnerable to criticism because he comes from a minority background. He is not Sunni, he's Alevi by background. I mean, he's a secular person, but he comes from this. And also he aligned himself with the Kurdish voters, especially nationalist left-leaning Kurds affiliated with the People's Democracy Party. And those two features, that he's not really quote-unquote real Turk, but also he's dependent on the Kurdish nationalist vote, made him vulnerable. It's not for nothing that we have a very strong performance by the third candidate, Sinan Oğan. And maybe many of those voters probably would have voted Kılıçdaroğlu or any opposition candidates. And finally, yeah, there were other candidates for this position, notably the mayor of Istanbul, Ekrem İmamoğlu, and there'll be voices, I'm sure, saying that the opposition made a wrong choice with Kılıçdaroğlu.
Yeah. Speaking about the third candidate, Sinan Oğan, it's a nationalistic candidate, right? More conservative.
Very much so, yeah.
And I suppose his supporters may be more likely to vote for Erdogan. Am I right?
Indeed, yeah. I mean, a bit of background. Sinan Oğan was a key member of the Nationalist Action Party, which is now aligned with Erdogan. He, at some point, mounted a leadership challenge to Devlet Bahçeli, who is the party boss. At the same time that another person, Meral Akşener, did the same. So they were both looking at ways to replace Bahçeli and were disappointed with his alliance with Erdogan. Now both were expelled from the party, or they started their own movements. Now Meral Akşener's İYİ Party is the second largest force in the opposition coalition. But Oğan is also there. So in fact, we have three nationalist parties right now, one aligned with Erdogan, one aligned with the opposition, and one independent. But the point is that many of those same voters would probably be, I mean, of course, those nationalists who are happy about Erdogan, they probably sought to punish Meral Akşener for turning a blind eye to this alliance with the Kurds, and they defected to Oğan. But so I expect that in the third round, many of Oğan's voters will probably not turn out. Some will probably still support Kılıçdaroğlu as the lesser evil, but there will be a sufficient number that will side with Erdogan, which will see him through the 50% finish line.
Could it be any protests from opposition side, or everything is looking calm at the moment?
It looks calm, yeah, because there's still a chance that that there'll be some rabbits pulled out of the hat in intervening 2 weeks. If the opposition is to win by a very small margin, and then their victory is denied, or there are some recounts or administrative pushback, that's a protest scenario where many people will be on the streets. But right now, it seems that, I mean, Erdogan is winning fair and square. I mean, it's not fair in the sense that what we discussed with the uneven playing field, but the margin is substantial. I mean, it's close to 2 million votes, and it will be difficult for the opposition to contest. But yeah, we shall see what happens after the 28th of May.
What would be your prospects of the second election round?
Well, the way things are moving, I think that will be a very narrow victory for Erdogan.
Okay,
he's very close to the finish line, and momentum is behind him.
So those 2 weeks, it's much more in favor for the current president, right?
Well, like the opposition regroups and strikes some bargain with Orhan and manages to get those 5% on their side. And it's very difficult because they're coming from behind. It's like in football, right? Whereas Erdogan needs only 0.5 percentage points to make it through. And even if but a tiny percentage of this third candidate's supporters go for Erdogan or abstain, that will be enough for him to win. But yeah, like I said, it will be a very narrow win, nothing compared to the 52% he pulled off 5 years ago.
What can change in Erdogan's political behavior after this election if he keeps the power? Would you see any important changes, especially on foreign policy towards Russia, European Union, United States? Would it mean any changes? How do you feel?
I don't expect any changes. It will be more of the same. It's very interesting, as somebody made this comment online, that probably both Moscow and Kiev have reasons to be happy about Erdogan winning, because Putin, but also Zelensky, have built a personal relationship with the Turkish leader, and Russians won't expect any U-turn. Turkey won't be joining the sanctions, won't be changing this position of being in the middle and not really supporting NATO. But then again, Ukraine has received aid, assistance from the Turks, and Turkey has been an interlocutor, including those much discussed drones, the Bayraktars. So I think it's reasonable to expect that Zelensky will be banking on further support from Turkey. So it's really more of the same. On NATO, I wouldn't be surprised, and it's probably closer to Lithuania, if Turkey ratifies Sweden's accession agreement after the election. I mean, they will need some pay savers, some legislation, but talking to people who are involved in those negotiations and know more about the workings of NATO, it seems to me that the expectation is that before the Vilnius summit coming in July, Turkey might as well give okay to Sweden. So that's a development. On the EU side, not much will happen. Right now, we are in rapprochement mode. Small steps. I mean, there's no big breakthrough coming. For instance, I don't expect there'll be talks on updating the customs union, because EU has put forward conditions on human rights and democracy that will be difficult to fulfill. But there are other negotiation items. One is the renewal of the refugee agreement, and Turkey is looking for a new budget line after 2024. There will be engagement on energy. There will be engagement on climate change as well. Erdogan brought Turkey into the Paris Climate Agreement. So small steps and ad hoc cooperation without any major opening, which would have been the case if the opposition had won. Or it was to win, so let's keep it open. I mean, if the opposition wins, there'll be an opening with the EU, but there won't be any major disruption in case Erdogan stays in power.
Speaking also about some prospects of democracy state in Turkey. If Erdogan wins, would it mean that he feels much more secure, or in contrary, will try to press on opposition? And we could say that if opposition loses this time, the next time it would be much more harder to challenge Erdogan.
Oh, definitely, it will be really difficult. One thing that is probably on the opposition's mind is the local elections coming next year. And they'll be defending their gains in Istanbul and Ankara, in the big cities. That will come under pressure, I'm sure. Erdogan will try to secure those. Who knows? I mean, that's his last presidential term. He might attempt to do what Putin did in Russia with changing the terms and rewriting the rules, because it will be very difficult under this personalistic regime to find a successor. So there'll be less democracy. I mean, the regime will become growingly authoritarian, not in the sense of repressions, because I think we probably saw the peak of those after the failed coup in 2016, but in the sense of narrowing the space for opposition in Turkey. But having said that, one lesson in Turkey is how resilient society, but also opposition parties are. They managed to contest Erdogan's power in very difficult circumstances, where actually odds are staked against them, and make the most of it. So they won't surrender without fight. And I think longer term, Turkey will probably go back to a democratic, more democratic regime than before, but it won't be an easy ride given what's likely to happen in this crucial election.
Speaking just about the yesterday elections, and we see that pro-governmental alliance is getting the majority in the parliament, and Erdogan is leading. Is it about ideology mostly, or some economic challenges also plays a role for these elections?
Well, it's a combination, because if you think about the vote for AKP, the party behind Erdogan, it always combines political Islam, people who support those politicians because they see them as representative of the conservative current in Turkish social life, and they've done a lot to bring religion and conservative values to the forefront, building mosques, allowing headscarf women to be visible in public life, and so on and so forth. But I think the core of Erdogan's traditional appeal has to do with economic development. It's a justice and development party, and all the gains Turkey made over those decades in terms of growth, prosperity, better life chances for many Turks. Now, this has changed, of course, and the last couple of years have been difficult, with very high inflation and living standards collapsing. But there is expectation, at least by some people, that the government will take care of them. And this has been the core electoral message. If you look at what Erdogan put forward in the campaign, again, like I said, it's not NATO, it's not foreign policy, it's not Syria. It has to do with social spending, with salary, pensions, with housing and all benefits. He's also promising people that reconstruction in the south east will proceed very smoothly, which, by the way, is another reason why relations with the EU will be, let's say, moderately constructive, because there'll be need for EU assistance for reconstruction. There is actually a big contrast with the atmosphere around the previous presidential election in 2018 and the referendum before that, where there's a lot of acrimony between Germany and Turkey, the Netherlands and Turkey, and so forth. Now it's being calm, and I think the economy and reconstruction needs is a big reason. So yeah, I mean, Erdogan always part of his promise to people is that their life will get better, and it will get better for parts of the population that have struggled in the past and have been marginalized, be because of culture or because of their economic status.
Okay. Western democracies, it seems to hatch its favorite candidate, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, but if Erdogan wins, does it mean that Western powers, Western democracies, EU countries will increase a kind of pressure on Erdogan, or just tries to accept it, to accept him as an invaluable partner and tries to soften the position towards Turkey?
I think it's the latter. Because, of course, there's a strong preference that Turkey will move towards democracy or re-establish the rule of law. But Erdogan is the devil we know. We've done business with him over many years, good or bad. And there's acceptance that he's the one in charge, and he has support by a sufficient number of citizens of Turkey. So I don't think the West will take any or push back against Erdogan victory. Secondly, we are long past the stage where the EU in particular, but also the US to some degree, had leverage over domestic politics in Turkey. With the death of the accession negotiation process around 2007, 2008, the EU lost its former power. It's been a long time ago where those conditionalities could exercise some traction over Turkish politics. So it's not that the West can do much. And it's actually healthy they didn't voice very strong preference for Kılıçdaroğlu, because it would always be counterproductive in a place like Turkey. So yeah, I mean, long story short, I think there'll be engagement, but also with some caveats, because again, you cannot base the relationship on a long-term commitment if you have somebody on the other side who is not sharing the EU's values or Western values.
Well, okay. Thank you very much, Dimitar, for joining for this brief translation. I hope you are of high demand today for commenting all these Turkey events and electoral results. I wish you the very best luck, and let's see what results will bring the next round, the second round of these elections. So thank you very much, and have a good day. Bye.
Thank
See you
you.
next
All
time.
the best. Thank you so much.
Bye.